All righty, welcome back from the episode of Two Plain Sports. Today is Monday, August 29th. We had our first a little bit of taste of college football this weekend, week 0. Granted, it wasn't fantastic football, but I'll take what we can get, and it was good to see that that game out in Dublin. That was cool to see, but it was kind of a comical ending. We'll recap that at the very end of the show. Today, we're going to be talking a couple commits. Mccarty Vickers and Anthony Evans ended up joining the Sooners. I know a lot of people like to point out that we were wrong about Anthony Evans, and that's totally fine. I'll be wrong about a commit every day of the week if that means he's going to commit to Oklahoma. So I know some people were jumping on us for that one. And then we're going to be talking OU landed another transfer running back, which I don't even know how OU has room for another running back, but they keep taking them, which is fine with me. And then we're going to do a game preview against UTEP. Since it is game week, believe it or not, game week is finally here, and it's hard to believe that this offseason has been extremely long, and we're able to finally turn the page and we can start seeing some Oklahoma football. Before we get into it, just want to say we appreciate it. We're like 30-something subscribers away. Help us hit 5,000 before the UTEP game. We only need like 30 more of you. I know there's a lot of you that are watching that aren't subscribed. It's easy. It's free. Hit the button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell, like the video, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We just hit over 2,000 Twitter followers, so we appreciate the support there. If you hadn't already, definitely go like us and follow us on there and Facebook. If you're listening to us Apple or Spotify, be sure to follow the channel, leave us a review. It helps us out a lot. And also check out our monthly membership if you'd like to support us. So let's get into it. I think the first guy we got to talk about is Anthony Evans. And, I know that we've talked about his numbers and everything else at length. Again, these guys, Mccarty and Anthony Evans, we've talked about 75 different times. Again, Anthony Evans is a 4-star, 5'11", 170-pound wide receiver from Converse, Texas. He chose Oklahoma over Georgia. And I'll be honest with you, the morning of his commitment, it seemed like he was going to Georgia. And I remember we said that if you see Parker Thune put in a crystal ball in favor of Georgia, you know what's going to happen. And I think Parker, right at lunchtime, put a crystal ball in favor of Georgia with a 4 confidence. Then all of a sudden, Brandon Drum and Steve Wiltfong put in a crystal ball, and Parker Thune put in crystal balls for Oklahoma. And I don't know exactly what transpired or what was said. I know that they were putting a full court press on him. But that right there, I'm telling you, with the previous staff, this would have been a guy that Oklahoma would have lost out on. 110%, 100 times out of 100, Lincoln Riley and his previous staff wouldn't have been able to do this. And this is what elite coaching can do. And this is why Anthony Evans is a Sooner. Brandon, what do you think?
I mean, it's exciting. As you mentioned, we were wrong about it, and we're going to be wrong sometimes. Some people out there like to think that we're 100% experts in the college football world, but at the end of the day, we're just 3 dudes who are passionate about the sport, and we look at what's happening as we read and do as much research as we can to try and give our opinion on matters. And we trusted 2 sources that we had on our show, and we've had Thune and Drum on, and as you mentioned, they both had crystal balls for Georgia, Oklahoma. They kept going back and forth. At one point, it was 2 for Georgia, 1 for Oklahoma, whatever. We kind of just trust the crystal balls. Looked at that. We missed it. We're glad we missed it. It's a good thing we missed it. Anthony Evans is going to be a good football player for Oklahoma. When we initially talked about him, I kind of think he's like he's the great value Jaquez Petaway. I think it's just the best way to look at it. He plays a very similar game. I don't think he's Jaquez Petaway good, but he plays a very, very similar game. So it's exciting to have him. The dude can fly. So the 3 receivers that we have in this 2023 class are all dudes who can flat out move, and Jackson Arnold can flat out throw the ball. So it's exciting. I can't wait to see them all in the Sooner Crimson and Cream, and hopefully we're wrong about more kids if it means that they come to Oklahoma.
I'm not going to accept the fact that we were wrong, because if I'm sure all of us here follow Parker Thune, and he actually mentioned the morning of Evans' commitment, he was going to be committing to Georgia. Something happened, like when we talked about it. This staff went full court press, did everything that they did. They they had to do. They pulled out all the stops to make sure that Evans was going to be a Sooner. And it's like we mentioned on our Twitter account, they're not going to accept a loss in any sort of way to another elite program. That we're going to try everything we can to make sure that we're on the winning side of things. I mean, it worked out in our favor this time, and I think that it was just a situation where, you know, he really loved the Oklahoma staff, like he mentioned. He feels at home, but there's something about Georgia that wanted to pull him over there. I mean, they did just win a national championship. It's kind of hard to you know, say that you're better than the last national championship unless you can prove it on the field. You know, Evans is going to be a fantastic player, like Brandon said. He is a guy that's going to take the cap off the defense. I don't know if I would exactly use the exact same words. I think him and Petaway are slightly different. So they're both definitely speedsters. I think one of them, Evans, is more straight line speed, and Petaway is a little bit more agile and can break more tackles. Not that Evans doesn't have that ability. I just don't think he's had to prove that at the high school level quite yet, because he's so fast that he can just get past anyone that's in front of him. But yeah, glad he's a Sooner. And like both of these guys said, we're okay with being wrong, but I'm not accepting this one as an L because we were actually right. We're not doing this stuff live. We are recording, you know, the night before, and it's out. Even if the night before it sounded like he was going to be a dog.
Yeah, I've got a couple thoughts. So one of the things that the Sooners have been doing, and from what I've seen, is they've been in contact with Micah Tease. And Micah Tease wanted to play wide receiver, and he's currently committed to Arkansas. Now, I'm not saying even though that they landed Anthony Evans, I know that if Anthony Evans would have been going to Georgia, they would have been after Micah Tease hard. But I'm curious, now that they've kind of had this conversation or open to taking Micah Tease as a wide receiver, do they take a fourth wide receiver in Micah Tease? I'm not saying that they would, but it would be interesting because they could always have a transfer out sometime this year. They might have a scholarship open. And Micah Tease is an extremely high-level prospect. I mean, he would be a guy that would be hard to turn away. So that's something to watch. Second thing is, I think what also helped Oklahoma is the fact that Georgia, at the wide receiver position, granted they had George Pickens, they haven't been able to produce 1,000-yard receivers year in and year out. And Oklahoma can and has. And I think the negative recruiting worked out in Oklahoma's favor there, because I think that's what was also happening with the previous staff is they're talking about you won't be developed along the offensive and defensive line. It's the negative recruiting. They don't pass rush. They don't protect. They don't do a bunch of different things. And the negative recruiting was winning out with a lot of these 4- and 5-star defensive and offensive linemen. But in this case, because Georgia can't and hasn't had big time receivers, at least recently, I'll say recently, I think that really helped Oklahoma. So that always plays in their favor. And yeah, so Micah Tease is someone I'm keeping an eye on. I'm hoping, I would love for Oklahoma to really push him and see if they could take a fourth wide receiver, because it's always good to have more depth. So another guy, we don't have to talk about him a ton, Mccarty Vickers, 2023 4-star, number 6 safety. He was primarily recruited as a cornerback. He's rated as a safety, plays safety right now. Basically, from what I've understood, is he's being primarily recruited as a cornerback, can play the safety or can play the cheetah position depending on the depth and where he's needed. He's that versatile. I picked OU over Alabama and Michigan. It seemed like it was OU Alabama for the last 2 months. He basically said whenever he was going on his visit for the party in the palace that he felt like he was getting on a plane to go home. And he already made his mind up before he even got on the plane to Norman. He was that dead set on it. And the Soul mission played a huge factor into his decision. And Caleb Kelly was very influential in his recruitment. And I think not only can the staff develop you on the field, we've seen it time and time again, the development off the field and the man and not just the football player is huge, and it's hitting home with families with a lot of people. Jose, what do you think?
Sorry. Yeah, the Soul mission seems to be what is separating Oklahoma from a lot of schools. I mean, whenever we had, at least whenever I was on with Jackson Arnold and Bates, they both mentioned like the soul mission is something that they really liked, that caught their attention. I'm not sure what Ozida said about it, if you guys talked to him about that at all, but really seems like not just the families, because obviously parents are going to probably value that a little bit more than the player themselves at the time of recruitment, but they see the value in it long term. I'm sure that there's a lot more intricacies that we don't know the exact details about, that they know and learning about during the recruitment process. But soul mission, big plus. Glad that was implemented this year. And Vickers' commitment was actually a lot cooler than I thought it was going to be. I thought he was just going to, they're going to be out at midfield with his parents, maybe a couple of reporters around, and he was just going to put on a hat so that they could get onto the second half. It was a little bit longer of a process. His entire team was out there. It was, really exciting. And he put on the golden hat, or a golden hat. So I was a fan of it. Glad that was that. I mean, we knew what was going to happen because of the crystal balls and what led up to it. It was just nice to finally see it go through.
Yeah, I mean, agree. The golden hat thing was neat. I don't think I've seen that before from any other kid we've landed in the announcement video or whatever. But so that was cool. But we're all excited about Mccarty Vickers. We've talked about him at length on the show, so I'm not going to go in depth on him as a player. You can pretty much go to almost any video in the past 2 weeks, and it'll probably have 25 minutes about Mccarty Vickers, just randomly in there. But I think we talk about the defensive line group in this 2023 class a lot, and rightfully so, because it's really, really good. The DB group is quietly becoming maybe the second best group, if you will, with Vickers and Jacoby Johnson are both top 90 players. Josiah Wagner is a 4-star. Eric Mccarty, I think, is pretty good. Chapman McCown. And then Peyton Bowen is still high on Oklahoma and vice versa. So if Oklahoma is, 10 years down the road able to get Peyton Bowen to actually flip and commit to Oklahoma, that could be the second best group, I think, in the 2023 class.
Yeah, and I think I saw that Eric McCarty might have gotten hurt this past weekend. I think it was his hand. I don't know if he's out for the year or not, but I did remember seeing that. But Eric McCarty, yeah, he is a very high ceiling. And I agree that secondary is starting to become a strength of this class, and it's a much needed strength. Just kind of, looking at it as a whole, Oklahoma now has the number 4 recruiting class according to 247 Sports. And the difference between, Oklahoma and Ohio State, granted, is minimal. It's just a few tenths of a point. But Oklahoma is less than a point behind Notre Dame, and they have Peyton Bowen committed to them right now. And they're less than 2 points behind Texas. And granted, now they're 14 points behind Alabama, and Alabama's putting together a ridiculous class. So 2 through 4 is separated by, or 2 through 5 is separated by like 2 points, less than 2 points. And the growing kind of feeling is that Peyton Bowen is committed to Notre Dame right now, but it seems like that he keeps looking at Oklahoma and Texas A&M. He's going to visit Oklahoma and Texas A&M a lot unofficially this fall. It seems like that Notre Dame's eventually will lose his commitment, whether it's to A&M or OU. That's debatable. Part of me is thinking that he's leaving. You just don't keep going places and keep talking to other coaches and things like that unless you're not happy. There's something that he's not sold on about Notre Dame, or maybe it's just the fact that it's so far away from home. I don't know. But overall, I mean, OU's the number 4 class going into the football season. There's another commitment potentially coming on September 18th in Jordan Renaud to put OU up into the top 2, assuming that nothing gets, no one commits or decommits between now and then for any of the schools above Oklahoma. Oklahoma, by middle of September, could have the number 2 recruiting class in the country. And the idea of jumping Alabama is probably a little far-fetched. Alabama is just, they're putting together a ridiculous class, and they added Edric Hill recently, and they're still in, the top dog position for Keon Keeley, who decommitted from Notre Dame. So there's another 5-star looming for them it's just going to be a lot, probably too much for OU to overcome. But number 2, that's possible. You guys have any thoughts?
That speech that Saban gave during the donors conference or whatever earlier in the year, when he kind of shit on Jimbo Fisher for buying the last class, really worked. He got a lot of money so that he could get that NIL going for Alabama and starting to beat A&M out. I mean, we all know that Alabama, regardless of NIL, is going to get a good recruiting class. It's just insane what Nick Saban's able to do every single year. But the fact that we are right behind him, or pacing to be right behind them, I think that's a good outlook for Oklahoma in the future, during Venable's reign as the head coach for Oklahoma. Really doesn't seem like there isn't something that Venables can't do. We've recently seen a resurgence in USC trolls in our comment section because there's nothing really going on over there.
Have you messed with the class calculator at all? Is it so like if we do perfect scenario world, if Peyton Bowen flips, DJ Hicks commits, Jordan Renaud obviously commits.
In that world,
is that number 1?
Yeah, well, yeah, as of today, yes, it would be number 1. I mean, if that ended up happening, I'm doing it as we speak right now. They would definitely be number 1. I just don't know how much Alabama's got left. That would put OU at about 304 points overall, and Alabama is at 298 right now. So Alabama's bound to land a handful of guys, but that's not including Tasili Akana.
I was about to mention Akana, yeah.
He's a top 100 player. There's still could be Ryan Yates. Could Yates also be someone that OU could flip? There's still in Malachi Coleman. So if in a perfect world, if OU could end up with, I think, 27 or 28 players in a perfect world. And in that world, OU would be right up there with Alabama, but I just not sure because I just don't know who the big targets are left outside of Keon Keeley for Alabama. And they're bound to pick up probably 3 or 4 more guys, if I were to guess.
Yeah.
But
does Akana still not have a date yet? Is he similar to Hicks in that regard with no commitment date set?
I don't believe he has a date, but he is going to be taking an official to Oklahoma, but I don't know what weekend he's coming, but I know he's coming. So I feel like OU will close that one out, but still, if OU goes 6 for 6, 5 for 5, 6 for 6 in that scenario, even 5 for 6, that's 2 or 3 for sure. So overall, pretty good spot. It's hard to complain whenever you're at the highest you've ever been before the football season even starts. We'll move on to a guy that kind of came out of nowhere, and he announced his transfer, or well, I guess, on Twitter, they figured out his name popped up in the student database, Mecca Megwa. He is a 6'1", 220-pound running back. He's originally from Keller, Texas. He was a 2021 4-star player. He ended up signing and committing to Washington. He committed to them over Notre Dame, Arkansas, Alabama. He had all the offers that you could ever ask for. He was a big-time target. He went out to Washington. He's had some knee issues and knee trouble. He's had surgery a couple times, and he is a walk-on transfer. He won't be eligible for this fall, but he can practice. So he'll provide some depth. He can maybe run scout team, get into shape. He's a big guy. I mean, he's 220 pounds. To me, it kind of reminds me of Ramondre Stevenson. But my gosh, this running back room, it's not a scholarship spot, so it's not like we're giving out another one, but it's just there's so much talent there and so much depth there that it's almost like we don't even have to worry anymore. As far as if someone goes down, God forbid, there's talent there waiting to take over. Brandon, what do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, I was actually on the lake Saturday when this news broke, and I actually found out because my Apple Watch started buzzing with 2 Plain Sports notifications. So you guys kind of broke that news for me. So I don't know a whole lot about the kid as a player. I looked at his offer sheet, as you mentioned. Anybody who's offered by almost everybody, especially all the big dogs, there's a reason for that. He's a big-bodied back, as you mentioned. So in just having another quality running back making more competition is always a good thing. Similar to what you brought up with Mccarty, I think if Oklahoma can somehow flip him, I think you absolutely should. Just add more talent to the room. It's never a bad thing. Competition breeds the best players. So I think just another quality running back in that room is never going to hurt. So yeah, the very little I know about him, I'm excited to have him on campus.
If he is a large human being, I would assume that at some point he would at least be given the opportunity to get a scholarship. Probably after this year, since he was such a late transfer in. I would guess that is part of the reason why he is a preferred walk-on rather than a scholarship athlete. He was being recruited, like Brum said and Brandon mentioned, almost everyone, including Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley. I think the fact that Oklahoma's running back room is starting to become so loaded is because Lebby is aware of what his offense actually needs and how he runs it. He's very self-aware in what is necessary for him to succeed, which is running backs. His offense really, I mean, yes, it's more RPO heavy, but it's run first and then play action and start slinging it around. That was also very similar to Lincoln Riley's offense, but Lincoln just, at least in the last couple of years, was not aware of how he ran his offense when he had the highest of success with Baker and Kyler. And we're starting to see how we needed to refill the running back room. Like this shouldn't have been a situation in the last couple of years where we see the potential of one guy going down and Oklahoma's running game might be completely obliterated. Now, like you guys mentioned, if one guy goes down, God forbid, then there's talented depth behind them where we're not going to be stressing out about, like, can Oklahoma still run the ball? This year, if Eric Gray went down, can Oklahoma still run the ball? I think the answer is just an unquestionable yes, because you still have Javonte Barnes back there. You've got Gavin Sawchuk, Marcus Major, Tawi Walker. Emeka's not going to be able to play this year, but next year he'll be part of the depth and maybe even challenge for starting time. I mean, there's without a doubt, Oklahoma is going to be loaded at the running back position for years to come.
For sure. So, I mean, it is kind of crazy how we went from a time where we were like, we're not going to have enough bodies to, for the running back room, to now a plethora and a surplus of competition. And also this protects Oklahoma, that if one kid decides to go into the transfer portal, it's not devastating. And you're bound to have that in this modern football era. You're bound to have kids go look elsewhere. And you have a lot of depth. It's just, it sucks to lose someone, but if you have 4 stars waiting behind them, okay, that's fine. So overall, it's always good to add depth, especially a walk-on. We're not having to give a scholarship, and he very well might earn a scholarship as long as he can stay healthy. I mean, he had the potential, obviously, coming out of high school. A lot of coaches and programs saw him as a high-level running back. So we'll see what ends up happening, but he's going to have a lot of depth to overcome to carve out a significant role in the future. All right, so we'll move on. We're going to do kind of a game preview. So we decided to get out a game preview on a Monday so that this, you can see it throughout the whole week. It's not releasing Friday morning. The game day is Saturday the next day. So OU this weekend, that feels good to say, this weekend plays UTEP. And that's their home opener, Oklahoma's home opener. Brent Venables' first official game in the Venables era. That's good to see. And I'm curious to see the differences of a game day. I won't be there for that one. Brandon, are you going to go to that game?
I got my tickets today.
All right. So Brandon's going to the game. So Brandon will be there. You guys might see him there. I'm not going to go, but I'm planning on going. Brandon, you're going with me to the Kent State game September 10th. So that'll be a good game. Jose, unfortunately, is about 14 hours away by car. So it's not just an easy day trip. Even if you lived in Seattle, it would be easier, but I understand.
Yeah, you should just move to Seattle, bud.
So, so UTEP, they ended up losing their game to North Texas by, 18 points, I think it was. We talked about it on the game or week 0 preview. I know a lot of you guys watched that one. We talked about that game, and we all picked UTEP to end up losing. Or wait, Brandon, you picked UTEP and the points. And
I picked UTEP and the points. You guys actually, you had North Texas minus 1.5. It's actually the only game I missed for those of you who actually did watch the week 0 preview. I went 9-1. So anytime we talk about betting, I think I'm the one to listen to and not these dum-dums.
Yeah. So, well, we all did pretty good. We all went positive. At the end of the day, all you need to do is be winning more than 50% of the time, as long as you're betting appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, y'all went 6-3. If you're happy with that, that's fine. I went 9-1. So I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. Anyway, so UTEP ended up getting ran over pretty good. North Texas has a good linebacking core. Quarterback was efficient for Texas. Now, UTEP, we did talk about that they lost their 2 top receivers. They did have 2 receivers go for over 100 yards, but their quarterback, Hardinson, threw for nearly 50 times. And he was running for his life, and it just wasn't a great look for UTEP. Not that it was shocking by any means. We don't need it. I mean, I don't have a whole lot to say about UTEP. I want to talk more about Oklahoma, but Jose, what do you think about UTEP and what they're looking at?
Oh, they're looking at an absolute ass whooping. There's really no two ways about it. Whenever we did the preview for their week 0 game, I really thought it would be relatively low scoring for both teams. The fact that UNC was able to put up 31 and their quarterback did almost as well as UTEP's quarterback stat wise without throwing it nearly as much. Threw for 3 touchdowns. UNT's quarterback threw for 3 touchdowns. He spread the ball around pretty well. Their running game was efficient. Their lead back got 80 yards on 17 carries. Brandon's favorite stat, which is their yards per carry. RB1 for UNT got 4.7, and then RB2 got 5.3. So UTEP really struggles stopping anything. Their offense is basically anemic until it's garbage time is when they can finally get some yardage. Now, their quarterback doesn't absolutely stink, but it's going to be tough to play against a much better opponent. I mean, he had a lot of yards. I know it was a lot of attempts, but he had 2 receivers both go over 100 yards. One had 127, another with 122. I don't see that happening against Oklahoma. Maybe if we're up by like 50 going into halftime, then we'll start putting in a few more depth guys so that they can get some reps in, more freshmen so that they can get some work on in real game situations. But UTEP is going to get absolutely throttled this weekend.
I mean, agreed. Their quarterback, as Jose mentioned, I mean, the 300 yards or nearly 300 yards is good. Touchdown pass, no turnovers. All that's good, but the dude was 21 for 48, which is horrible. Still a 26 QBR. I think as you mentioned, I think our defense will give him fits. The whole UTEP offense in general should struggle against our team. I think it's going to be, I mean, no disrespect at all to UNT. I'm sure they're, a decent program, whatever. But like Meek Mill said, it's levels to this. Like Oklahoma is levels above UNT, and they lost it by 18 to UNT. So just by the transitive property, they should lose by at least like 36. Because I would say we're at least double the program UNT is. Just basic math and stuff like that. So I think it's gonna be ugly. I don't know what the spread is yet, but I'm gonna take Oklahoma, whatever it is.
It's Oklahoma minus 31 the last time I saw.
Hammer it.
Yeah. I would hammer it as well. I think my prediction for the score is 52-13. Oklahoma.
Yeah. And we'll talk about Oklahoma here in a second, but I would be surprised if we give up 21 against UTEP with how badly they performed against UNT. Like Brandon said, there is levels to this shit. And it would, again, even in like the fourth quarter when we're going to start seeing more freshmen and more depth guys come into play, even I don't think they would let UTEP score on them, at least easily. They would really have to struggle and put in a long, methodical drive to get down the field.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll talk about Oklahoma now because we don't know a whole lot about UTEP. We just know bits and pieces from what we've seen. But talking about Oklahoma. So My first thing is I think that Oklahoma is going to establish the run. I think Eric Gray is going to establish that he is RB1 for the Sooners and a clear-cut number one. I think they're going to try to set the tone with the offensive line being physical up front, and they're going to be able to open up holes and maul, just basically overpower them. I think Eric Gray goes for over 100 yards. I think Dylan Gabriel is going to want to get going, and obviously they're going to try to put up some solid numbers. I don't know if Dylan Gabriel plays the entire game and Eric Gray, I mean, for that matter, any of the starters. I think for the first half, you're going to see Dylan Gabriel really try to establish the run, and then he's going to try to be hitting Marvin Mims over the top. And Jalil Farouk, he might get some, but I think Mims and Weiss are going to be your number one and number two. And I think Eric Gray, I think those three guys and Dylan Gabriel obviously will have a good day. But I think you're going to see the offensive line. Hopefully we don't see a bunch of rotations. I hope it's a pretty set group, and they know what they want. I mean, they've got a lot of veteran presence there. You just need Wanya Morris to really establish himself, and Anton Harrison at the left tackle position. But your core of Rain, being young, you've got Murray and Met Tower. You've got a really good interior offensive line. I think that's going to really open up a lot of holes for Eric Gray. And so I see Eric Gray being the biggest producer on the offensive side. Brandon, what do you think?
I agree with what you're saying on offense. I think Eric Gray will have a huge game. My only question is, can you really establish yourself as a true clear-cut number one based off of performance against UTEP? I don't know. And again, that's no disrespect to UTEP, but that's a game where I feel like it's expected for anybody who's starting and playing a lot to have a good performance against UTEP. So I think Eric Gray is going to be that guy all season. I'm with you on that. Is maybe the constant, I think, is the word you use, and I do agree. I just don't know if you can set yourself as a clear cut in a game like UTEP, but that's whatever. I'm very excited to watch Dylan Gabriel, and I'm excited to watch the defense. That's the reason that I got the tickets. I can't wait to see Dylan Gabriel and new QB1 in there. And this kind of feels like, remember how we were excited to watch Alex Grinch's defense before we knew anything about it? We were drinking the Kool-Aid. We're like, oh man, we might be something. We're excited to watch it. Now we're going to play under Brent Venables' defense. The dude's a proven winner. He's been to national championship games. He's led top 10 defenses in the country. His resume speaks for itself. Now we have a real defensive mind. I think that's very fair to say. We're not just drinking Kool-Aid anymore because we're OU fans. I'm excited to see this real defense out there, and just hopefully it just looks dominant in week one, and I'm expecting it too.
Yeah, I agree. I think, Eric Gray is going to have probably the best stats he's had in a single game in his career at the college level. The wide receivers will do fine. I agree with Brum. I think they're going to start off trying to establish the run. I wouldn't expect any huge passes first or second play. Maybe once we start getting the run game going, we'll start seeing some deep bombs getting thrown. I think the defenses was going to be what I will be watching the most. I genuinely do not believe that this is a game where the offense should struggle, nor against Kent State, and we'll talk about them more next week. But not that I believe the defense will struggle, but this is the first time that we will get to see how the defense is improved, the players that are going to be out there, because we did lose quite a bit of significant guys on that side of the ball to the draft. And then we're bringing in a few more players. The corners sounds like it's going to be Jaden and Woody. I mean, I will admit I was not a Jaden Davis believer, but he didn't really give me a reason to believe in him last year. So hopefully this year we see the improvements he's made under this staff, under being coached by an actual cornerback coach this offseason. And the linebackers is where the linebackers and the defensive line. I know that the DBs, that was probably one of the biggest weaknesses of the Oklahoma team in general over the last few years, but the linebackers, relatively new. I know we have Deshaun White and Nwegbu back there, but or how much are we going to see of the younger guys? Are we going to see Kanik play at all with the starters. The defensive line is going to be a lot of rotation, especially in the interior with Jeffrey Johnson and Isaiah Coe, Jordan Kelly, Jalen Redmond. What's that going to look like? I think the defensive ends are going to be a little bit more clear cut. It doesn't seem like there's going to be too much rotation there. There will be some to keep the guys fresh, but Reggie Grimes and Ethan Downs just seem to have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. I'm sure we'll see Stripling come in every once in a while to get reps in, but this entire defense is where I'm more interested in for this game.
I hope to see some Clayton Smith too.
Yes.
He's a guy I mentioned a couple of times. I hope to see him, especially in a game like this. Like, this is, show something out there, earn some playing time.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see Justin Harrington, see what he's all about. Obviously, we've heard a lot about him in practice. I want to also see Jonah Lalalu. Lalalu's been making some plays and in practice. Obviously, Stutzman's still there. Wegbu, Deshaun White. I want to see how Wegbu does. He's dropped like 30 pounds. I think you're going to see a lot more athletic and fluid player in David Wegbu. You're going to see him running sideline to sideline. I know Stutzman and Wegbu are the same position, but I wonder if there's certain packages where they're going to be able to, kind of mix and match and get them both on the field at the same time. And who's the cheetah? Is it Justin Broyles? Is it Harrington? Is it Canick? Is it Jaden Rowe? Or is it just depending on in the quarter, what quarter it is? I don't know. I'm just curious to see. I'm just excited to see that we're going to probably have more than 3 plays on defense, and it'll be cool to be able to see different packages and not having guys just running on and off the field to run the same plays.
I'm staying the entirety of the game, no matter what, because almost entirely just so I can see both Jadens, the Jaden Rowe and Jaden Gibson. I expect to see them both in this game. I don't expect either of them to start or play with the ones a whole lot, but I'm super high on both Jadens, and I'm going to stick it out the whole time. Hopefully, move down once everybody starts to clear out, get some front row seats to watch both Jadens go off against UTEP. Is my plan.
Hopefully the stadium doesn't ever even clear out. Hopefully it's just 60 minutes of just.
So do I. I hope it's 85,000 of us strong the whole time. But if the score is what we expect it to be, if it's 51-7 going into the fourth quarter and it's 100 degrees outside, some people just the student section, for one, we know for a fact isn't built for that. Those dummies leave after the first quarter of these blowout games.
That is the most painful thing. I remember it just, you would look behind yourself and you'd see half the sections were empty. I don't know. I don't understand.
To survive.
Yeah. But go ahead.
I do think you'll get to see Jaden Gibson play some with the ones. It seems like he's made enough of an impact where he will get some reps, maybe in red zone situations to play with DG and Eric Gray. Now the rest of the starters on the offensive side of the ball.
And another thing,
I'm
watching, can Wanya Morris, and granted, I know this is not the highest of competition. I'm not saying that, but can Wanya Morris come in as a right tackle, block Dylan Gabriel's blind side? Because remember, he's left-handed. Can Wanya Morris come in and be that guy at right tackle? I would imagine he could, just based off of talent and athleticism against UTEP. But I'm just excited to see. I'm assuming that he's going to be the guy, and he needs to be the guy. Or it could be Jacob Sexton. Sexton is pushing him.
If he's out there, if he struggles, consistently getting beat or holding calls against UTEP, it's kind of a sign that he's probably not the guy the whole season.
Yeah. So I'm hoping, but I also like to see what Jacob Sexton is, because it seems like Sexton is pushing Wanya Morris pretty good. So I don't know. A lot of things to watch. I'm excited. I don't care. I'm going to be at home, but I'm going to have that game the entire time just so I can see the rotations and the depth and everything else, just to get an idea of what to truly expect. Because at the end of the day, what we're talking about, we don't know what the rotations are going to be and exactly what Venables and Ted Roof are going to roll out there. We're just speculating based off of what we've seen in the past and what we kind of expect. And so that's going to be the big thing to watch. So general college football talk, week 0, Nebraska. what are you doing? It's just incredible. Scott Frost is now 5-21 in one-score games in his Nebraska coaching career. They go up 28-17, kick the onside kick. I mean, it's hindsight's always 2020. But at the end of the day, you're up 11 points. You have all the momentum. There's really no point getting a little, I guess, a little too aggressive and a little I don't know. I don't understand it. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And granted, you know what? If they would have recovered the field goal or the onside kick, excuse me, no one would be even talking about this. But it's just things like this that what gets you fired are things like this. And his new contract, his buyout is $15 million as of today, October 1st. It drops to $7.5 million after OU beats him by 25, 30 points. I see Scott Frost maybe coaching against Indiana, and then he is canked. That's just what I've been saying for a while. I think Oklahoma gets him fired.
I mean, I was at the lake all day Saturday, so I think I watched a total of maybe 10 total snaps in that Nebraska Northwestern game, but I kept checking in every, hour or so just to, keep up with the score and all that stuff. For like the 6 people who actually watched the week 0 preview, I threw out a crazy hypothesis about Nebraska and Scott Frost specifically, where he was going to go to Dublin, lose so badly that he would get fired on the spot and stay in Ireland and become a different kind of football coach, kind of like Ted Lasso. Maybe that onside kick was his plan to make this hypothesis right. Boys, I was pretty loose, but on the way home from the lake, I was checking my phone and Twitter every 10 minutes, hoping to see Nebraska and Scott Frost have parted ways. Just Scott Frost stepping down as Nebraska head coach, because I would have been so happy that hypothesis would have been right. That would have been the coolest thing ever to be right about, because although I didn't mean it, I would have absolutely claimed to have meant it if it happened. But yeah, maybe the onside kick was him trying to get fired, and I was onto something.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell Scott Frost was thinking there. Even real time. I know you just said, hindsight's 2020, but I don't think anyone other than Scott Frost and Lincoln Riley would have made that call. There's no reason, when you have the momentum, their offense at that point, going at the beginning of the second half, I can't remember. I think they might have had a drive and Nebraska was able to get the ball back. If not, it didn't seem like Northwestern was rolling quite yet.
They hadn't scored in the second half. Northwestern hadn't scored.
So essentially he gave them an opportunity to get the momentum back. He said, you know what? We're getting a little bit too much hype on our sideline. I want to gift you guys some confidence and get you back in this game, because there was no reason. That drive, I'm pretty sure it was that drive where Casey Thompson had that crazy rollout. He should have been sacked. It was almost Russell Wilson.
Yeah, where he just chucked the ball down the field.
I mean, it was an awesome play. When I watched that play happen, I was like, yeah, there's no way Nebraska loses. Casey Thompson is on one today. And then, obviously Scott Frost found a way to do it. And I mean, personally, I still do not think Nebraska is going to get absolutely throttled by Oklahoma. They played well in the first half. Again, Scott Frost just found a way to lose, and I believe he will continue to do that until he gets fired. Really, the only way he gets fired before Oklahoma is if he loses against North Dakota next week. It's very possible. Nebraska might as well just eat the last $7.5 million and get rid of him. Whipple did great with that offense. Casey Thompson was looking amazing in the first half. Looked like a really good quarterback. Amazing might be a stretch, but he at least looked really good. He's completing passes. I wouldn't blame the interceptions solely on him. The wide receivers were selling him completely. 2 drops that ended up being interceptions. Just not a good look for those guys. I mean, Whipple, would he be happy if Frost gets canned in the next couple weeks? He would have to be he would have to be the guy to get the interim job, right? That offense looks great.
I would think so.
Are they the best 0-1 team in college football history?
Some would say.
Probably. I've never seen a better one in my life.
Yeah. But hey, you know what? You know what I love about that is Malachi Coleman. That pretty much seals everything up. All he needs to see is that he's not going to go play for Nebraska, especially if they lose another one. If they get beat by Oklahoma, there's no way he's going to end up at Nebraska. He's been waiting to see if Nebraska is going to be back like they've been hyping themselves up to, and maybe the offensive linemen need to start throwing up about 30 times a practice or something. There's not enough puke.
Dude,
This is also only one game, boys, and I know it's not great, but I mean it is one game. There's always a possibility that they go 5-7 still.
I'm just saying Northwestern is not good.
I don't think Northwestern is that bad either. Again, the even year hypothesis. Every even year they do decent. There might be, like 9-3 competing for. They're on the west side of the Big Ten, right? I believe. So they might be competing for that. I don't believe Oklahoma will throttle them like Nebraska, like I said, but that offensive line didn't look good. The defensive line looked worse somehow than the offensive line. They couldn't get any pressure on Northwestern's quarterback. I don't know if Northwestern just has, one of the best O-lines in college football right now, or that defensive line is trash.
Northwestern does have a projected top 10 pick in their offensive line.
It's the left tackle, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And that was he got called for a false start, which was I thought it was kind of questionable. It seemed like the defensive line jumped before he was just trying to call him out. But that offensive line was having a game. I mean, if what Northwestern showed against Nebraska is going to be consistent all year, there's a good chance that they are competing for the Big Ten. The Big Ten West, not the Big Ten in general. Ohio State will absolutely destroy them. Yeah,
no, that's true. I mean, it's just hard to believe that Scott Frost is like 5-21 in one-score games. And I think I saw they're of the first team to lose 7 straight one-score games since like 1930 something or something like that. I can't remember. Maybe I'm totally making that up, but there was some sort of weird stat where they have lost that many just one-score games, and I might be totally wrong, but it's just.
You think they missed Bo Pelini yet up there in Husker Nation?
They had to. They have to.
That dude had like 8 or 9 seasons in a row of at least 9 wins. Yeah. And they canned him because it wasn't good enough, and then they get this shit, and they have to be like, man, we may have missed on this one.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. One thing with Malachi, not saying that Nebraska helped themselves with this performance, but if Frost is canned like soon and Whipple is promoted to the interim and then hired as a permanent head coach, I think that would give them a fighting chance for Malachi, because during the first half, the tight end was looking pretty good with the connection with Casey Thompson. So if he plays tight end for Nebraska, he would at least have a chance to be, a key player in that offense for Whipple. But if Whipple's not around, I don't see him going there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Malachi Coleman is being recruited as the defensive lineman or a linebacker for Nebraska.
Oh yeah, they're fucked.
Or it could be wide receiver. I can't remember, but I know OU's the only tight end spot. But yeah, or Nebraska might give him the option. I can't remember what position Nebraska wants him at, but still, I don't know. Nebraska's a disaster, and I know it's one game we're probably overreacting. Now they'll go 11-1 or something ridiculous, but I just don't. I don't know. I just don't see them putting it all together. But overall, do you guys have any final thoughts on anything college football week 0? Anything coming up?
Harbaugh's a dipshit, but we can talk about that some other day.
Yeah. So.
Jim Harbaugh or Scott Frost, who would you rather have?
Harbaugh.
I agree.
Pretty freaking close, boys.
Pick one.
I'll take Harbaugh just because he seems like a cool guy, but his offensive coaching, he misses.
Yeah. Brandon, you want to lead into your
challenge? For sure. So, I mean, it's game week. As we talked about on the show, I'll be at the game. I'm sure a lot of you will be at the game. So comment if you're going to be at the game, and if not, where are you watching it from? I know obviously from your house or whatever, but like he's watching it from Phoenix, so that kind of area. This is kind of a chance for our out of staters, out of towners to kind of draw up where they're watching the Sooners at week 1. Hoping to see some pretty cool responses in there.
Definitely. So be sure to do the in video challenge. If you made it this far, it's one of our longer videos, at least in recent memory. We appreciate it. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on. I think Jose and I are planning to go live Saturday morning, do a little pregame. Jose, what do you think? Like 8, 9 o'clock Central Time? What time are you thinking? Maybe 9, maybe 10? We're actually not thinking about it.
Let's go with
2 hours
9.
behind.
I'm okay.
Sorry.
I'm okay with waking up, 6:30 for this, but I don't know if I can do 5:30, bud.
Yeah, no. All right. We'll do 9 a.m. Central Saturday morning. We're going to go live for about an hour or so, preview Oklahoma, preview all the college football slate, all the big games, and just hang out and see what you guys have to think and say about the game coming up later in the afternoon. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Everything's linked in the description below. If you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify, follow the channel, leave us a review, helps us out a ton. And we will see you guys Wednesday with probably some more recruiting talk and general college football talk.